Are we able to be heard, Jason?
Yep, I got you.
Perfect. Okay, it is 6 o'clock and I'm calling the meeting to order. So could everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pat?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Kathy, roll call, please.
Mayor Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember Bean? Here. Councilmember Furby?
Here.
Councilmember Halverson?
Here.
Councilmember Scanlon?
Here.
We are all present and accounted for. Before we get into public comment, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy new year. And also, please be respectful of the meetings. And we want to try and maintain decorum in here. That way people can be heard. That goes for council and for the members of the public. So we're going to try and start the year off with some orderly meetings, I think. So, okay, moving on to our first public comment. You have a limit of 5 minutes per person. And you have 5 minutes. You have to state your name and address. And okay, Claudia. Hang on 1 second until he gets the cameras all set. Good. Okay, go ahead.
Claudia Demarest, 821 Marie Street. The Ishpeming City Charter is a legal document adopted April 7th, 1986. The Open Meeting Act is a law, and the Freedom of Information Act is a federal law. I've said on numerous occasions that you have to follow all documents and laws. Ignorance of the law doesn't give anyone a pass. It is no excuse. That's right, you can't defend your actions by arguing that you didn't know they were illegal, even if you honestly did not realize you were breaking the law. At the December 6, 2023 regular council meeting, this council violated the Open Meeting Act. Under item number 20, you went into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268C to consider strategy and negotiations connected to a collective bargaining agreement. When you go into closed session, you can only discuss what you are going into closed session for. My name came up on numerous occasions, and Carl Peterson's name came up. Carl and I are not employees of the city of Ishpeming, nor are we in any Ishpeming City Union, but our names came up. And he also talked about a car accident, victim and his injuries. You all violated the Open Meeting Act. The city attorney didn't stop you, and neither did the city manager. When I got on the Ishpeming City Council, the city manager was a true professional. This city attorney, who was here for 40 years, would never have allowed what went on in your so-called closed session to occur, and he always made sure we didn't make asses of ourselves. He would never have allowed 3 council members, the city manager, the city attorney, the finance director, and the city clerk / assistant to the city manager to all go down to a local bar after council meetings, which happens on a regular basis. He would have said the public perception doesn't look good, and he would have been right. There are council members who need to resign. The city manager and city attorney need to resign for your actions and lack of actions in your so-called closed session. I don't know who's in charge of your on-off button, but thank you very much. You were broadcast live on channel 189. And when I got home that night, I put my phone by the TV, got a good portion of the closed session audio on my phone. Would you like me to play it for you? I realize my 5 minutes are going to be up pretty soon, but it's very entertaining and shows what really goes on in your closed sessions. Anyone in the public who would like to listen to it, give me a call, 360-4011. I'd be more than happy to play it for you. And item number 9, you have a public hearing coming up. City of Ishpeming Parks and Rec Plan 2024 through 2028, and adopt a resolution 1-2024, adoption of the Parks and Recreation Plan 2024 through 2028. Shouldn't this have come before the Parks and Rec Board for approval before the council votes on this? On February 21st, 2023, Julia Cougar from QPAD gave a presentation on a recreation plan survey to the Parks and Rec Board. We haven't had the recreation plan and haven't voted on this. You'd think the proper procedure would be the Parks and Rec Board voting on the plan and then making a recommendation to the Ishpeming City Council. Thanks.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak for public comment? Okay, go ahead. We'll have 5 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Jeff DeGabriel. Well, good evening, everybody, the public, and 2 council members. With due process of law, I'm allowed to disobey the request of my address and my name. It's a 4th Amendment violation of the United States Constitution. So, I'm going to criticize individuals here tonight. With due process of law, I expect the city attorney to define in her public report, Article 1, Section 3 of the Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, Article 1, Section 5, Article 1, Section 23, Article 1, Section 22 in that report. Because she's practicing maritime law, not constitutional law or common law, which is not law. Chief of Police, I have a photo of the city of Ishpeming's non-mayor and his vehicle parked not on his property, on city property, on Lower Bigelow and 7th Street. In the city of Ishpeming, in the parking lot, in December, those cars were ticketed. I've never seen his truck ticketed, and it's been there for 30 days in the same spot. He plows behind his house on Reddy Street. You don't own that. That's city right away. I don't care what you do on your property, but I've seen this for 30 days driving by your house every day. And every once in a while, your dad parks right next to your truck, which your truck is a gray and blue Dodge with a Boss plow on it. Your dad's is a black Chevy. Then we get to Councilmember Bean. When I decided to file 11-700, you called my 11-700 frivolous and unmerited. You don't have the vocabulary for a law degree. That's what the city attorney for is. The city attorney is sticking her nose in city business. She cannot. An 11-700, she must remain neutral. Cannot give legal advice. Also, Councilmember Bean, in a newspaper article, I have the article, what's your name on it? You were representing the city during COVID. Both you and City Chapman, or Councilman Chapman, violated Article 1, Section 5, Article 1, Section 3 of the State of Michigan Constitution, the First Amendment Constitution, Article 6 of the United States Constitution, second paragraph down, says anything repugnant to the Constitution is void. That means anything the governor said, did, executive orders were void, written, couldn't do it. Can't. Both of you, in articles, I can't see gatherings of city functions. I have the articles, every one of them. And you kept this from the former mayor of the city of Ishpeming. I'm peed about it. Now, we get to Councilman Scanlon. I criticized him once on a city function for the birthday party. He sent an attorney after me. It's a violation of New York Times versus Sullivan. I can criticize anyone individually, period. Mr. Kujini, last month, got upset when Councilman Halverson voted no on giving the city attorney a 5% raise in open session.
Your 5 minutes are up, please. If you would like to talk later, there is more public comment later. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak?
My address.
In your council report. Oh, yes, it is.
I would like to
It is appropriate.
I would like to point out that, Mr. DeGabriel, you did argue these in court of law, and they were litigated, and the court dismissed all charges against us on those terms and dismissed with prejudice. So those are not factual statements. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please state your name and address. And that is just our policy, and so we can keep track of it.
Oscar Forsman, 575 Mather Avenue. I'm here because of my interest. I became aware of the Parks and Recreation Plan. And just to comment on the previous comment a little bit, I would find it a little unusual that there wouldn't be a recommendation from the park administration to the city council. But as a recent resident, I do appreciate living down the street from Alcohol, using the snowshoe trails, the ski trails and such. And I see the benefits in increasing the infrastructure. I'm a retired teacher. My daughter's been living up here for over 25 years now, so my wife and I are fairly recent to the area. But back in the district where I taught, I took to heart, I read the comments, the draft on the plan, and I took to heart the comments on programming and making partnerships with the school. And so I hope that's a part of the plan, getting the kids to invest in their community later on is important. I've seen the benefits myself from my own teaching experience, and I don't know that if there is a programming director in place with Parks and Recreation or an education director, I think this could be a direction to go to foster these programs and build them up, and then help these kids invest in their own community. They'll be further invested as they grow older. But like I say, being recent residents, we do appreciate the fact of having these wonderful resources in our backyard. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you would like to speak at all during the public hearing, we have a public hearing on the rec plan tonight coming up. Yep. Okay. Todd?
Todd Kopanen, 409 South 3rd Street. First need to apologize. I need to say what I need to say, and I have somewhere else that I have to be.
Go ahead.
So normally I would stay out of respect for this process, but I've been monitoring up on the other side of the abandoned railroad tracks from my house on the end of 409 South on South 3rd Street. And in previous years, there has been no moving water. We have a small pool of water that is coming from somewhere and going somewhere else, and it's not freezing over. That's abnormal for there. And slightly concerned. I don't want to add conjecture to it. I don't know what caused it to be there. I don't know why it's there, don't know where it came from, but it's there now. And given the previous history of up the hill with the sinkhole and some other things that have happened in the past, I'm a bit concerned with that particular occurrence. And I'm hoping that somebody with some technical or expertise or some type of knowledge beyond mine would assess that situation, because I'm a bit concerned. And I would need some hope that some folks would come and take a look at that. I've sprinkled some sawdust in it. It doesn't move very quickly, but it does move, and it's down in a hole. And even on a non-windy day, you can see the ripples in the water, and it's not super huge. So you would think on some of those colder nights that it would have frozen over by now, and it has not. And again, I've snowshoed up there in the winter and taken my dog up there. I've never seen it like that before. So rather than, I just, wanted to come and bring it to people's attention and hope that it can get looked at and we can make sure that it's not leading to something else larger, that people just need to be aware that it's up there. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. And I do have a really quick question, and because normally I would bring it up in my council report, but because you have to leave, I would like to ask, is there water normally in that in any other time of year?
In the spring, you'll
okay.
get some pools when we have the melt and we have a lot of spring rain, but it usually it evaporates and then it's dry. And so we haven't had a ton of moisture this fall or this winter, and for it to not freeze over is kind of strange for its size. You would think that it would be frozen solid by now. And again, I'm not an expert, but hopefully somebody would come and put their 2 cents in, or have somebody that has more knowledge than I do come and take a look at what's going on up there. But for me not to come and say anything would be negligent, I believe, on my part. I think that you guys needed to be aware, because I'm monitoring it every day, thinking that one day it'll just freeze over, and it's not. I have some pictures on my phone. If somebody wants to call me, I can text them to you, or forward them to wherever they would need to be, or if somebody wants to meet me, I'll walk up there with you and we can take a peek at it. But
I'll stop by too.
Okay.
Usual. But Craig?
Yeah, we have our engineering firm coming out, I believe, well, they've been already analyzing some of it, the area as a whole, like not speaking to the pooled water at the moment, just as the whole. And, and it's continued direction from our last special meeting that happened in December. But the engineers are in town tomorrow too, so I'm not sure when they'll get there. They got a couple things they're doing, throughout Marquette as part of their services to other communities, but they're gonna be in town doing some stuff with the city of Ishpeming and visiting some of that area. So they're tapped. We'll have engineers that are looking at all of that, including the curbing and water flow and all of those things.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
Sorry for having to cut out on you folks.
No, understandable. Okay, is there anybody else that would, okay, go ahead.
My name is Raymond Olds. I live at 1165 Knight Street in Ishpeming. I have a couple of things I'd like to bring up. A couple of weeks ago, there were a lot of upset people on Facebook about getting tickets parking on the street at night during certain hours. Well, and that is for plowing, as I understand. Well, one would think that if you're going to hand out tickets for plowing, that's when the plow should be out, not a couple hours later. So I would suggest either changing the plow schedule or changing the parking ban schedule so that there's not such a confusion with it. Another thing I'd like to bring up, and I'd like to tell everybody here, I usually watch the council meetings at home, and when you all test your mics, you lean in toward the mics and test them. But during the meetings, you all sit back in the chair, and sometimes it's very difficult to hear what's saying. So just be aware that people at home might have a hard time hearing you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Is there anybody else that would like to get up and speak? Okay, Mike.
Good evening. Mike Tonkin, 612 North 3rd Street in Ishpeming. And first of all, I'd like to thank the DPW. They plowed our alleys at the first snowstorm. I had a very nice warm feeling from that, and I do appreciate it. So at least we're not forgotten completely in that part of the world. I have a couple of comments for especially one of the changes that you've got to the agenda that you're talking about, going from a 5-minute agenda comment time to 3 minutes and combining the agenda comment with the regular comment time. And if in some meetings you could literally take 5 minutes off of people's comments overall. And that's a little disturbing to me. And I hate to say this, but it's almost like you don't want to hear from us. So is that true, or just say yes or no? No, you don't have to say anything. I understand. But anyway, and there's other ways that it seems like things are being shifted, so it's harder and harder for the public to come up and make comments. And the other problem is, this is the last thing before I leave, is that the information for the meeting doesn't come out until the last minute. And I don't know about you, but I try to stay busy, but when things only show up a day or two before a meeting, it's tough to come up with, especially when you have to do researching and starting to dig back in the minutes and things like this. It's hard to do with only a day or two of notice without dropping everything that you're doing and getting a headache and whatever else it takes to do it. So I wish we could get our meeting packets by the weekend at least. I think your policy says by Friday at the latest, and also we don't get a complete packet on the website. This past one only gave us about 5 or 6 sheets of paper, and that was it. So half of it wasn't even there. So it would be nice to be able to get a complete packet a few days earlier than we have been. So other than that, thanks a lot. And again, thanks to the DPW.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak for public comment? Yep, go ahead.
Good evening. I am here. Thank you all, first off, for all the work you do.
Okay. Can you state your name and address?
Oh, yes, thank you. My name is May Chupros, and my address is 925 North Main Street. Is that everything?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
I'm just gonna start by thanking you all, because I know public service is a lot of work, and I truly believe that every single person up here cares deeply and is doing the best they possibly know how to do. So I appreciate you all. I also have to apologize because I have to leave right after the meeting, so I can't stay even though I really want to. It looks like a really engaged audience today, but I have a grant deadline due. I'm here just to speak and provide updates for the work that we're doing with Partridge Creek Farm.
Excellent.
I see this as a really good spot to do it. I want to keep the council informed, and I really want to keep the community informed about what we're doing, since it's a lot of public-facing work.
That would be great.
So just to start, we have a farm going up. If everybody noticed that large plot of land next to the high school, middle school, and then the Jasper Light Senior Housing Facility, it now has a hoop house that we will skin and grow food in starting in the spring. We're going to develop about 1/3 of that acre and grow approximately 10 to 15,000 pounds there this year. That food will be available to the high school, middle school. So we're going to be selling it to the high school, middle school to go into the cafeteria. And we'll also be providing subscription boxes if anybody's interested. Our goal is to get that food to SNAP EBT recipients and our ALICE population. We also will be in the community gardens again, so we will have some memberships available. If anybody wants to be a member of one of our community gardens, please reach out. The farm will also host some workshops, some skill shares. So if you want to learn healthy cooking recipes, are interested in sharing some skills, maybe you have some family recipes that you want to share with the community, we'd love to have you. And finally, we're going to have an intergenerational mentorship program. So we're going to be recruiting from high school students and seniors in the community to do garden work together in a program. So that's some of the fun stuff happening at the farm. The school is doing a bunch of cool stuff. We're getting ready to start our healthy cooking program. We're going to do garden and nutrition education again this year. We're going to have a summer internship program in the gardens for our middle schoolers. And I'm really excited to announce that the seventh grade team, a math teacher, social studies teacher, and science teacher just started a cross-curricular unit embedded in the school on how to end hunger in Ishpeming. And they're doing that internally. Partridge Creek Farm's not even doing it. They're taking it and running with this. So I'm really proud of that. I also want to let everybody know that we did go through the school board and get approval to start a beehive at the middle school garden. So there will be a beehive in the middle school garden. We got approval, we have a safety plan, but because that is such a in middle of the city plot, I wanted to just let everybody know about that. There are gonna be bees there. And we'll follow city ordinance, which is 25 feet away from a door when we set that up. I think that's really it. The final thing I wanna say is that we really hope to continue our robust partnership with the city. We'll find out about the community centers grant soon, and I really appreciate all the work you're doing. And if you know anybody who lives by a garden and you see dogs pooping in the gardens this winter, will you please kindly remind them that those spaces are for the community and for our students. And so please do not poop in the gardens and pick up your dog poop in the gardens if you see it. That's all I have. Thank you all so very much for all the work you're doing and for letting me speak and give you some updates.
May, without objection from the council, because you're giving an update and have to leave, is there any questions or comments from any of the council members? Okay.
Nice update.
Thank you.
Thank you. My plan is to do them every council meeting from now on out, so you all are stay abreast of what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, May. Okay, anybody else for public comment? Nobody's on Zoom, so last call for public comment. Okay, hearing none, we are now going to move on to the approval of the agenda. I think Renell would like to make a motion to remove something from the consent.
I do. I would like to make a motion to remove the brass gown or
The approval of disbursements and that.
pardon?
The disbursements?
Right,
Okay.
from, and table that, so we can talk about that again.
Later.
Which letter?
Bravo.
Yeah, B. I don't have a problem with it. I'll support the motion. Sir,
I have a question. So are we moving that to a different item on the agenda to discuss it, or you said table? Are we
oh,
Right.
if we table it, we don't discuss it at this meeting.
Right.
If we move it out of there, we can discuss it when we get out of the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Thank
So I
you.
guess I was just unclear on.
I
as to
was, yeah, I
what-
was too.
Which. we wanted
Right,
to
well,
do.
I just have some questions on it, so we can move it to the end, if that's,
Well, I think it would be appropriate to move it to right around number 7, hey? Seeing that's with the monthly financials.
right.
Sure.
Okay, is there any objections, any other comments? I supported it, yeah. I spoke. Alrighty, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the agenda,
That was to remove it, right? Is that getting?
we're just gonna talk about it during the monthly financial statement
I don't know
report.
what that, I don't know what that is.
Oh, you had one other thing. Okay.
I believe the planning commission recommendation from the Monday night movie on 14A was tabled and is not ready for delivery at the council meeting.
Okay, so, can you amend
14A.
Okay, thank you.
Renell, would you mind amending the, your motion to also include tabling 14A?
Absolutely.
And also they'll support that.
I think we're just removing it.
Removing it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So is that still okay with everybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now the motion passes.
Wait, I'm confused.
Sorry.
We've got a couple of motions.
Well, what I did was ask her to amend her motion. I didn't say that
Yeah, I'm
anything
just
after
amending my
that,
motion
just to make it
to
simple.
include that. We're
So
Sorry.
Removing it.
clarity's sake, for everybody on public area too, the motion on the floor is to move the consent agenda 6 Bravo or 6B approval of disbursements to a 7 and shift everything else down. And then from your agenda, 14A alpha would be removed because it did not get through the planning commission as necessary to be here. And so those two things would be amended to the agenda.
Good clarity. Okay, is there any other questions then on that? And okay, we will now move on to the amended consent agenda. Minutes of previous meetings, December 6th and 20th, closed session, December 6th. Confirm 2024 publishing source, which is the Mining Journal. Confirm 2024 depositories, Nicolay, True North, First Bank, Comerica, Charles Schwab, Edward D. Jones. Confirm payment to Upset for 2024 of $10,000. Confirm payment to the Commission on Aging for 2024 of $9,000. Appoint Kathy Miron to a vacancy on the Commission on Aging. I don't have a term expiring date on that, Kathy, but that's okay. We'll have that. Okay, would you just note that in then for the minutes, please, after? And then declare 209 library books as surplus.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as amended.
Okay,
And I will say.
support? Okay, we have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is adopted. And now, moving on to the monthly financial statement report.
You move this to 7.
Yeah, I moved that to 7, so.
You're gonna call it 7A, or you're calling it 7 and this?
Oh, yeah, well, let's take 7A as the, as we voted to with the approval of the disbursements and any questions that might be had, which is why I think we removed it, or moved it. So, Renell, I'll let you, give you some time to grab that. And just let us know when you,
Yeah, you can move on and I'll interject. I just have some questions on that,
okay.
on that part of the budget.
That's okay, you can just take your time, no problem.
In the, I guess what I'm looking for here is on the campground and everything, there is in the budget two due lines for the water system and the sewer system. And each of those are for $100,000 plus. Now,
Oh, okay, are we into the,
which one are you wanting me to?
well, I thought we were taking up the check register for the city of Ishpeming, which is the approval of disbursements. Unless I made a mistake. on
Yeah.
What you said,
I
you did.
think
Okay.
that is something else altogether.
Okay, well, then we can
I
take
did
that
get
then.
clarity from Grant on that.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yes. I
All right,
did earlier.
well, then does anybody have any questions on the approval of the disbursements at this time?
I do not.
Okay, perfect. Would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Support, anybody? Okay, we have a motion and support on the approval of disbursements. Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Disbursements are approved. Okay, now moving on to the revenue and expenditure report for the city, and I believe this is where you have your questions, correct?
Yes.
You know?
Did you want me to address questions first or give the?
Why don't you do your report first, and that'll give.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so taking a look at number 7, the unaudited balance sheet excerpt for the city of Ishpeming.
Yep, that's right.
Month ended December 31st, 2023. I would like to just take a moment to remind council that over the next couple of months, I will be preparing closing entries. So these numbers are subject to change as they are every year for the next couple of months.
Okay.
But to date, where we stand, start out with the general fund. Notable revenues for the general fund include $121,000 in transfers from other funds and state revenue sharing of $183,000 for months of September and October, received in December.
I don't know if I see that.
$165,000 of estimated state revenue is still expected to be received for the months of November and December and
Okay.
can still be applied for the 2023 fiscal year. It's pretty common year over year to have a lag in that state revenue sharing.
Okay.
So we have net revenues of expenditures, or net expenditures over revenues, rather, 536,000 year to date. I do expect that number to be decreased, as in we're going to receive some more revenue from the state. Ending fund balance as of right now is 607,000 for the general fund. Moving on to major streets, 56,000 in payments from the state were received in the major street fund, which has brought revenues over expenditures to 157,000 year to date, up from 21,000 in November. Personnel costs and vehicle rentals still make up the bulk of monthly expenditures for the major street fund. November and December state revenues have yet to be received, as with the general fund, and will still be able to be applied for the 2023 fiscal year when we receive them, so long as they're within 60 days of year end. For local streets, similar to major streets, again, the bulk of expenditures that we see, operating expenditures that we see, consist mainly of equipment rentals and personnel costs. This month, 24,000 in payments from the state were received in the local street fund, but overshadowed by vehicle rental allocations and salary costs, which brings us some of our decrease that we're seeing. But the bulk of the expenditures over revenues that we find in our local streets fund, excuse me, I think there's an error with my financial report that I just found. I apologize. Nope.
Where are we on right now?
We're in the local street fund. I apologize. So our expenditures over revenues year to date are at 228,000 roughly, which is a decrease of 2,700 from last month.
I have a question on the DDA. Who received the facade grant and the 2 new startup grants?
I believe it would have
The
been,
facade grant was JT Olson.
Okay.
And Jackson Hardware. The startup grant was the Ishpeming High School has a new daycare program, hematics. And then there was the Mather Inn was one where they've got a catering business within that facility. And then Sunset Integrated Health is over in the Gozzard building. And they have added an office and a provider to their facilities there.
So that was, I think that's more than what was noted in here. I'm just questioning that because we have 10K, 5K.
So when the checks
Oh, gotcha.
post,
Okay. That's fine.
right?
Okay.
So
All right, well, that answers my question. Sorry, Grant, go ahead.
no, that's okay. So as we discussed in the DDA, paid out 10,000 for a facade grant to Jackson's Hardware, and $5,000 for startup grants were booked. The bulk of the remaining expenditures for December were wages out of the DDA. For the Public Improvement Fund, We purchased a $37,000 gator, which was approved by council to aid in the grooming efforts at Alcohol. Additionally, $9,000 was paid to QPAD for master plan and recreation plan updates. And finally, $9,000 in fire equipment and an additional $5,000 in repair work to the storm sewer systems were funded in December out of the public improvement fund.
Not out of the water sewer funds?
The storm sewer, it can't be funded out of the sanitary sewer.
That's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yep. Moving on to our sewer fund, revenues for the sewer fund came in at just over 172,000. Major expenditures driving the year-to-date decrease in fund balance continue to be a product of the large sewer project and our bond reimbursement and our grant reimbursement. We are working with UPEA right now to get that funding submitted. Again, we can either accrue that or date that back into 2023. Revenues for the month of December surpassed expenditures by 94K. For the water fund, system usage of 14.9 million gallons over the month of November were paid in December, totaling 37,000. Revenues for the fund came in just under 239,000. An $80,000 interest payment on the 2017 water bond is a large driver of the $70,000 decrease in fund balance month over month, alongside the $36K budgeted transfer to the general fund and a $79K continued investment in the meter replacement project. Moving on to the garbage and recycle fund, see again, kind of the roller coaster month over month. We are in a favorable month as far as timing with our landfill billing out to the people who utilize that and what we pay for our service. So we have a slight bump up this month over last month, bringing our revenues over expenditures year to date to 91,000 and an ending fund balance of 517,000 in the garbage and recycle fund. Moving on to the motor pool and equipment fund. Rental revenues of 42,000 were recorded in December. 2 DPW pickup trucks were purchased totaling 124.9 thousand, and a budgeted transfer of $70,000 to the general fund has been made. Seasonably low plowing activity combined with the capital acquisition costs and transfers out leave the fund 32,000 in the positive at year end, a decrease of 223,000 from the prior month. And then finally, some good news to report in our police and fire retirement fund. If you remember last month, I didn't have the statements I needed in time for the council meeting. So we have November and December activity, which is reflected here. We had a market pickup of $393,000 of appreciation of unrealized gain, which is great, and $114,000 in interest booked. And that's what's driving that large fund increase. So year to date, we have net revenues over expenditures in the police and fire retirement fund of 606,000, and our ending fund balance is 4.9 million. Any questions on the report?
I do have one,
Okay.
just for my clarity here. Now, I guess last month, we had a few questions on the permitting fees for the marijuana shops and everything. Have those been paid? Are those current?
I believe
For the
those.
licensing fees? I mean, they have to be licensed in order to operate, right?
I can address that, Grant.
Yeah.
We did get both fees from both marijuana establishments.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, I thought that
Yeah,
I
they
had
both
seen them
came in.
come in, but.
Okay.
When do we see the profit or taxable sharing?
I think the tax share, and this is something I would like to maybe look into further, but I'm fairly certain that it would just come through the state revenue sharing. We're not going to see a separate deposit.
Will we see an amount though? We specified that these two establishments contributed A amount and B amount.
I'd have to,
The way I remember it in the past is that the state will announce what the share is, and it's equivalent, it's the total capture divided by the total number of establishments to equal a per establishment payment. And so it won't be a named establishment payment, but we have two, so it'll be that number times the two.
Yeah.
So,
If I remember correctly, I think that in the past 2 years of those have been paid out. I think they've been paid in the March timeframe. And I think last year they were about 26,000 per establishment. So if the trend holds similar, we could be looking at in that neighborhood. But I'm pretty sure it was in the late fall, late winter.
Thank you. I haven't had a chance. I've been here long enough yet to see those come in, so.
Renell, you
I
had
paid a
couple
lot of attention
questions.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm not, no, we collect those fees, okay, and it's got a year-to-date balance. And then,
Would you be able to tell us what page?
I'm on page, the very first page,
Oh.
1 of 27.
Okay.
But there's two. There's the marijuana tax up higher, and then there's the marijuana permit fee and everything. And I guess I'm not, and this is probably me, not your bookkeeping. It shows that, okay, our amended budget, $10,000, okay, then we've collected them, right? The year-to-date balance is 10 grand, and then it's zeroed out for activity, and available balance is 0, and it's showing that we used 100% of that.
So for the activity for month 12/31/23,
Right.
where it says 0 activity, that's just for the month of December, is
Okay.
how this report reads. So your year-to-date is everything that's happened, including the current month and all months prior. The next column over is only reflecting the current month. So I believe if we were to look back on November's revenue and expenditure report, you would have seen monthly activity of 10,000
Okay.
there, because I believe in November was when we received those. And then available balance is just how much of the budgeted balance we still expect to see for the rest of the year. So that's 0 because we've received 10,000 out of the 10,000 that we expected.
Okay.
And 100% is just the percentage of
And what
that.
do we spend that on, seeing it's already been used?
So that's actually revenue.
That's the revenue.
Yeah, so that's a revenue number. So we've received all of the revenue for that line item that we would expect to receive this year.
Okay, I was just confused because it said percent budget used.
Yeah, the report will give you that percent budget used column just kind of throughout both the revenues and expenditures. It's just
Okay.
kind of a quirk
Alright.
of the reporting.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Did you have any other questions going through any of the budget stuff?
No,
Okay.
not at this time.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to adopt the monthly financial statement report. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Well, I got one eye. All right. Opposed? Okay, it's carried unanimously then, Kathy. Okay, now we have a presentation from the Ishpeming High School students here on the blood drive, and I will let Craig handle this, please.
So Jalen Willie is the vice president of the high school's National Honor Society, and she's brought someone else with her that also works at the Ish Creamery as well. So he's a student and a local employee in the city.
Camera, please.
And I will switch the camera. And they would like to advise you on how they did in our, what we now coin as the blood fight between Ishpeming and Negaunee, but the two schools' National Honor Societies are taking the lead for both the city of
Wonderful.
Ishpeming and for the city of Negaunee, and so they're here to give a report on how they did.
Very good, and could you please introduce yourselves again, please?
My name is Jackson Foster.
I'm Jalen Willie.
Okay.
So last Thursday, January 4th, we held our blood drive. It's a competition it was Negaunee and Westwood. And we won this year. I think we collected 57 pints of blood, which was really great. And we had a whole bunch of community members come and donate. a lot of people that worked for Ishpeming City came. And it went really great.
Just a thank you to everyone who did donate. It was greatly appreciated.
Congratulations, well done, and go Hammer
What were the overall stats for the 3 participants?
So I have those for you. So the city of Ishpeming had 58 donations and 9 that were non-donations. So for one reason or another, they were rejected through the screening process or had an issue where they couldn't collect. And then in Negaunee, they had 27 donations and 10 rejects. So we more than doubled their count, which is great. We will be preparing a presentation of the trophy that passes to the trophy case. So we're still scheduling that. They're in their midterm finals right now. So we're waiting till their finals are over so that we can put a proper attention to it. But the school also had students from HOSA, oh gosh, do you guys remember what that stands for? It's
It's Health Occupation Students of America.
Health Occupation Students of America. They were helping to reduce line waits at the initial screening by doing blood pressure, cuff, and temperature readings so that the line would be quicker, so that our people could get through quicker, because they got teachers dropping out of classes to come down on their breaks, and students dropping in and out. And they want to keep that line moving, and then also the residents. And anyone that came that needed to get back to work or anything, they were able to front line in front of students. So it was great that. And then the National Honor Society was coordinating all of the running up and down the halls and coordinating more calls for students as the line would slow down to keep the beds full. The blood bank reluctantly added people to different stations because I told them we're going to have a lot of folks, and they were skeptical because they're not allowed to tell us what Negaunee's numbers are, and Negaunee went first this year. So they saw Negaunee's 30 and said, there's no way we're going to need that many. And I told them we're shooting for 60 to 70. At halfway mark, we all were in a panic thinking that Negaunee's got to be targeting 70 as the winning number. And so we did a really quick call, and at the halfway mark, we had 35 already collected, and we were pushing to find another 35 really quickly. And by the time I found out what Negaunee's number was, we were way over scared and having too much anxiety. And the students were pretty excited because why? Because you get to beat Negaunee, right? So.
I heard you mention our neighbors to the west,
Yeah.
but just briefly, I didn't hear any totals. Did they participate?
So the news, when I was watching it, it said they did, but we haven't. I'm thinking maybe their blood drive hasn't happened yet. They might not be part of the competition. That's my mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Invite
don't.
them.
Well, so I think the goal is to get more participation across Marquette, but as it stands right now, Westwood was not part of our blood fight for this year.
Gotcha.
They could be if they decided to jump in. But the numbers represent potentially 3 lives saved by every pint. So rounding our number for the sake of conversation, we've potentially saved almost 180 lives by our Ishpeming High School students jumping up and doing that. We also had our local business, the Ish Creamery, donated a free single scoop ice cream to anyone that donated that day. So if you're interested in the Ish Creamery ice cream cone next year, you might think about going and giving a donation, because that's pretty outstanding ice cream too.
Thank you to Lisa and the Ish Creamery and her team there. That's amazing. And I see my friend, the Honorable Mayor Kangas here. So you guys got a little work to do for next year. So
If I may.
you absolutely may. I think. Yep.
I demand a recount. I think y'all counted by 2s, not by.
Yeah, so anybody that might not have heard because the mic's not there, the Negaunee mayor is sitting present in our audience, and his comment was he demands a recount, that he thinks we're counting by 2. But anyway, shout out to our National Honor Societies, both schools, for stepping up and doing this. This public speaking bit is my ask of them, which is above and beyond what they normally do, but they are part of their school programming, learning how to do some of this public speaking, and they did have
two of their National Honor Society folks have to do TV interviews during the blood drive as well, so.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
The public speaking gets easier. All right, moving on now to public hearing on the City of Ishpeming Parks and Recreation Plan. So
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
With the information I received earlier that the Parks and Rec Commission did not give us a stamp of approval on that, I guess I'd like to table that until we have said approval. I don't think we should be going around our committees.
I'd
So
be happy
I'd like to
support
comment to
that.
that because there's a very important comment to that. First of all, the Parks and Rec Commission has had multiple events where they didn't have quorums present, and we had to, in one meeting, lower the number of board members required so that we could start getting a quorum. It has been presented in the what the public is looking for, and the Parks and Rec Director has had a copy of the draft, provided comments. I was understanding that was shared with board members, it may or may not have, but the requirement by the state is that the elected body of the council is the approval. However, if we fail to approve this tonight, we will go through the year of 2023 and 2024 without the ability to apply for any recreational grants through the state. And right now we have the Ishpeming High School is working with us to try to generate a recreation grant for replacing tennis courts. So we have met the stop points. There's certainly a document called a plan that can be looked at and modified over time, but the requirement for the state is to have it submitted and reviewed for February 1st approval by the state. And so given the hiccups within the Park Commission's quorum and just getting things through the wickets that are necessary, we comply with all things state requirement with this body approval, and it is a plan, a living document for which they can absolutely comment and suggest and recommend some potential revisions and changes over time.
I see, I feel it is kind of a conundrum because they haven't approved it, and if we don't approve it, we
Well, they
can't
don't
go after the
approve-
grant.
They don't approve, they only review and provide comment and or recommendation.
Correct. And that's what we're lacking, but understanding what you're saying, I would move. We've got some heavy tennis court action going on right now, and this would end that.
Yeah.
So I
So
would
you'll
move that
withdraw it and
we
make
adopt
a
this
motion?
resolution.
Hang on. You have to withdraw it first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yep, okay, so it is now 6:58 PM. I'm opening the public hearing on the Ishpeming Parks and Recreation Plan. So if there is anybody here that would like to speak to this, they may do so now at the podium, if you'd like to speak to it.
And we have Julia here from QPAD that can answer questions or provide any input, and she's got a couple of slides that she can go through as well.
Okay, I'll let Julia come up and talk about this, and then if there is anybody from the public that would like to speak, you can do so afterwards.
Okay. Jason, can you share slides, please?
Where's Jason?
Jason's on the far side of the screen running our Zoom for us.
Okay.
There he is.
He's on the other side of the rainbow, so to speak.
All right, good night, guys. I'm Julia Cocker with QPAD, landscape architect.
And please make sure you speak into the mic, thank you.
Yeah, call me out if I don't do that.
Okay.
We began this rec plan quite a while ago now, and we're hopefully nearing the final stages here. It looks like I'll trigger Jason when to flip slides. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay. So 5-year rec plan is a plan that's required by the DNR in order to apply for recreation grant funding through the DNR. The chapters outlined on the page up here are basically the outline that they ask for communities to fill out in order to meet their requirements. So tonight, I'm just going to quickly walk through a couple of these pieces. I'll skip over the beginning chapters, which are more of the boilerplate information. You're looking at your community description, your administrative structure, the natural environment where we looked at terrain and trail infrastructure. Jason, you're flipping a little fast for me, bud.
back up one. Okay, there we go. And then tonight I'll talk a little bit about recreation inventory, comments and issue scoping, and then the values, goals, and objectives in the action plan. So you can switch now, Jason, next. Okay, so this is just a little primer on why you create a rec plan, which I touched on, but on the bottom there, I have a box circled, and those, oh, sorry, I'll call out pages too, because I believe the council has everything printed there. So page 5 on this guy. So 4 key focus areas we were looking at included Ishpeming as a recreation destination, supporting healthy, active lifestyles within the city, meeting the increased demand for trail infrastructure, and then improving outdated infrastructure. Flip. Jason. Okay, here we looked at programming. So the city of Ishpeming has a super strong programming aspect, but that's something that was requested in our public surveys too, to add more to this. So on the left-hand side, we have a whole list of special events. This is also available online and has been since the middle of October, or the middle of November.
Have that page.
Page 19.
Page 19, wow.
Sorry,
Now we
I'll
got
call
it.
out pages. But we partnered with Travel Oregon, or Travel Marquette here, where they actually dug into some of the numbers for visitation within the events that the city of Ishpeming hosts. So the green bar graph there highlights a few different events. You have the Polar Roll, the Festival of Treasures, the No-K Ski Marathon, which we'll see how that goes this year. The Margie, we're looking at 3,500 participants last year. The Italian Fest, which had 5,100 participants, and then the Ski Jump, which had 4,400 attendees, sorry, not participants. You can flip slides, Jason. Okay. So the next facet of the inventory here is actually looking at the activities that the rec facilities provide. And this is a quick chart that just kind of illustrates how many picnic areas, how many play lots, how many ball fields, tennis courts the city has to offer. And you can see those are kind of the heavier weighted facilities offered within the city. Another look we do is actually accessibility. So this is a priority for the DNR and in their grant application process, is to make sure all facilities are accessible and even better, universally accessible. So there's an appendix that gets added onto the plan that basically does a deeper dive into every facility and looks at the accessibility of those and what improvements need to be made to make those accessible. Next slide. This is a map of Ishpeming featuring all the different parks that you have. What I was hoping to call out here basically is that the National Rec and Park Association has communities organize their parks based on the audience they're attracting, basically. And Ishpeming has a few parks, Alqual, the Ramba Trails, the Brasswire Campground, that are drawing a larger audience than cities usually host. So there's a pretty diverse array of parks. You have your mini parks that really just attract those neighbors, your neighborhood parks that zoom out a little bit and become your play lots for people within the neighborhood, community parks that are more of a community destination, and then those regional parks, which are much larger acreage and draw people from a larger audience. You'll also see the little blue lines all over this slide, and those are trails. So the city of Ishpeming and its competitor Negaunee both have a wonderful network of trails. Next slide. The green circle here illustrates the process we went through regarding gathering input and then defining the values. So taking all the survey responses, which we received 455 surveys during that period from people in the community. And within those surveys, we asked, hey, what do you love about the parks and recreation facilities in the city of Ishpeming? And those helped generate what the community recreation values were. After that, we moved into generating goals. Another question, which I'll touch on later, was, hey, what do you want to see happen within Parks and Recreation in Ishpeming? And those goals were kind of a fragment of what people proposed. And then finally, determining priority projects, which I'll touch on a little bit later. So next slide, please. This is the one question I wanted to put up on the screen here, which does speak to tennis courts a little bit. So we did ask, what would you like to change about Parks and Rec within the city of Ishpeming? And the little white bubbles in the upper hand corner of each picture notes how many people specifically requested that item. So adding a dog park was really popular. Resurfacing tennis courts had 90 requests. More trail infrastructure had 33. Updating playgrounds was up there. Opening the tubing hill was up there. Flip slides, please. Having additional programming was on the list, as well as updates at Elk Wall, and then just maintaining and fixing existing facilities. Next slide. So one other question had different images and potential projects that could happen within the city, and we just asked people check the boxes for things you would like to see happen here. You can see 64% of the respondents said they wanted to see updates to playgrounds, 63 wanted to see another ice rink or a skating trail. We had requests for dog parks, improved signage, and then we also had an other category where we had 64 people mention that tennis court improvement. Next slide. So this is the final step, really, looking at what potential projects could happen within the city. And a little caveat here is the DNR, when you apply for a grant, will ask if the project and the proposed grant is included in the recreation plan. So when you create a list of projects, the hope is to include all potential projects that the city would want to see. All these projects definitely do not and will not happen within a 5-year time period. But these are all potential projects that could happen based on the feedback that we received. So this first goal, continue to maintain a diverse palette of rec opportunities while better utilizing existing park properties. We're looking at creating trail connections. We had a lot of requests for just connecting neighborhoods to maybe the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, making sure you have a variety of trail types, and those are also available to different trail ability levels. So you have some of those beginner level trails in there. Maybe provide skill building areas as well for families, kids, and multi-generational trail users. And then we also had new potential improvements, looking at maybe a park in the downtown that would be open to people of all ages and ability levels, creating maybe an outdoor classroom amphitheater area at Elk Wall, adding rec improvements to the old landfill site. Perhaps that could have some of the beginner bike or ski trails, adding more winter rec opportunities in general. A lot of feedback was, hey, we love to see stuff happening all year round here. Next slide. Goal number 2, create park spaces, events, signage that are easy to locate, accessible, and reflect a sense of community. So that accessibility again is in there. So some feedback we did receive was just traffic conflicts on trails and users not knowing what trail is used for which user type. A lot of that came between motorized and non-motorized users as well, so making sure signage is accurate there. Perhaps providing additional trailhead infrastructure for accessing these trails, developing a comprehensive signage plan for the city and their park facilities that they have. For Elk Wall, there's a whole list of different items. I'm not going to read through all of those, but looking at general improvements at Elk Wall. And then number 3, updating well-loved facilities that are outdated or have fallen into disrepair. So this could include completing an assessment of the existing trails and identifying trails that need attention or reroutes, identifying best management practices for installing and going through the process of creating new trails, and then making sure all enhancement and park improvement projects utilize really good design strategies and durable materials so that maintenance does not become an issue in the future. And then sport courts, of course, looking at those tennis court facilities. And the same with play lots. So we were actually able to tour almost all of the play lots with a park staff person and then also an insurance rep, looking at the condition of the play lots that are currently on site and what improvements could be made to make them safer. And that's it.
So before we get to the formal public hearing, what you probably heard then is there's alignment to our master plan. there's alignment to the Planning Commission's recent conversations with the DDA as well, included regarding how we brand trails, how we sign trails, how we look at trails, how land is being looked at for zoning. And council meetings have heard playlots, tennis courts, all of the things that we could envision possibly being in there are in there. We, the city of Ishpeming, our 906 Adventure Team, Ramba, and local businesses and our bike enthusiasts are all participating in a regional trails network programming. All of this is aligned with all of those programs and doesn't fall short. Once again, how many comments did we get under the public survey?
455 surveys.
And
I don't remember what Nagani got, but you guys beat Nagani.
well, and we also
That's
beat,
all that
well, we also beat
matters.
Escanaba, right? We also beat like larger towns like
Yes,
Escanaba
yes,
as well. So we got a
Escanaba.
large community input in this process as well.
And we had a much larger community input than we had in the previous time that there was a survey. I think that was around 150. So to have gone from 150 to 450 indicates a substantial increase in public improvement, or public input, sorry.
And so then we put this in the paper to announce the public comment period, and it's been posted on our website. The full plan is available. Did we receive any public comments from that?
We
public
did
open?
not.
So no comments during the open public hearing period, or public comment period. And so now we're at the point where this final public hearing and then the council's opportunity to address questions and or adopt.
I
or
actually do have
reject.
one question. Is there a mechanism in which a neighborhood or a group can spearhead a project like this to potentially go for grants or anything to improve a play lot? Because I do want to just mention the Bruce Asgard Park. Bruce has said many times that he would like to find a way to upgrade that and repair things. And I think he and his wife Sandy would like to do so. Is there a way for them to go after grants? Do they have to go through the city? Are there partner organizations like a church that might be able to help?
So this could be a longer discussion, but they would have to go through the city in order to apply for a DNR grant.
Okay.
And from other local governments that I've worked for, that's kind of what you need, is somebody from the community stepping up and saying, hey, we need to make this project happen. So if they're interested in being that somebody, that might be worth it. There's also the patronicity grants, which I don't know if everyone's familiar with those, but through the MEDC, it's basically like a GoFundMe platform.
Oh,
where-
yeah.
Yeah, and Nagani's done that a few times successfully. But if you can launch your proposal on there and reach the funding goal that you have, let's say you want $30,000, and people from the community submit that amount of money in a certain amount of time, the MEDC will match that. So it doubles the amount of money that you have to work with.
Yeah, because I believe Bruce is ready to get to work anytime he can. He's just kind of waiting for some type of sign from us, so, yeah.
Yeah, so the grant deadline for the DNR, which I'm sure Craig is aware of, is April 1st of every year. And they have the funding available every year.
And I would be happy to help facilitate anything that needs to happen between you and Bruce or what have you, but they are really, really energized to try and make that happen over in the Wabash Heights area, so.
So there's always opportunities. The question is fitting it to the right opportunity and the right timing. The most recent, which would have been a likely candidate, was the Mishta Neighborhood Enhancement Program. And we found out Tuesday that we were not selected, but one of our partners was selected. So we have to see what their plan is, but I think they had already picked a different park than that as theirs because of where their housing project is within that. But
Well, and like I've told you many times, Bruce is willing to do a lot of this legwork, so you know, whatever we can do to help facilitate it, yeah.
So I think we need to open the public hearing period officially and go through that process.
Well, I want to just ask if any council has any questions. Anyone? Okay, all right, it is now 7:15. I will open the actual public hearing. So if anybody would like to get up and talk about the rec plan at this time, provide any input to council, you may do so now. So is there anybody here that would like to speak? Yes, Ann.
I'm Ann Olds, 1165 9th Street. I just wanted to clarify for my own mind, if you adopt this Parks and Recreation plan tonight, is a part of that plan applying for a grant for the tennis courts?
The answer is that the rec plan itself is not a grant application mechanism, but without the plan, we cannot apply for the DNR grant, which is open currently, because we need the DNR to approve this plan in order to be active before that application can be submitted.
Okay.
So it's necessary for us to adopt this resolution to be eligible for the DNR grant that we're planning for. That doesn't mean that we can't apply for other grants that are not state grants, but a state grant cannot be applied for if we don't have an approved DNR grant or DNR approval on this plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
But to be clear,
Yes.
we are fully intending on applying for any Pell grants we get for the tennis courts.
We have absolute all intent to support the school in trying to find a way to fund and manage tennis courts, particularly starting with the DNR grant for April 1st.
Okay. Anybody else from the public? Would you like to provide any input? Okay, gonna close the public hearing at 7:17 p.m.
Your Honor, I will make a motion that we adopt resolution 1-2024, adoption of Parks and Recreation Plan for 2024 through 2028.
I will second that. And I will also comment that as the city council representative to the Parks and Recreation Board, that was a question that I had. We have not met, the group has not met since October. I was not at the October meeting, so I haven't been to one of those meetings since September. We did miss a number of meetings this year due to a lack of quorum, which, as Craig has described, has been since rectified through changing the number of members that sit on that board. And we've had this maybe sort of a similar thing come about with the Planning Commission, where the Planning Commission makes, not immediately right now, if you look at me alarmed, I'm not talking about anything immediate, but where Planning Commission makes recommendations or has input on things. And in the past, we have usurped that sort of formality and moved into approving things and sort of jumped over that. And so I'm generally and blanket not in favor of doing that. However, given the challenges that the Parks and Rec Board has had this year with meetings, we did have the information from the survey presented to us, and understanding that there is a time constraint on a grant that would support one of the most commented on items from the public input. I do, having seconded that motion, I do support moving forward with this. If we didn't have a time-sensitive application pending or something that we would move toward, then I would prefer that to go back to the Parks and Rec to be able to have had a look at that at a regular meeting with a full quorum. But in light of all of those details, again, I have supported the motion and I do support passing it. I do feel badly that the Parks and Rec Board did not get to make a recommendation to approve this, but given those challenges, this is where we're at. So just wanted to acknowledge that. And I certainly don't speak for all members of the Parks and Rec Board, but it is what it is, so.
Okay, I have one question. A resolution, we do not have to go through a two-meeting process, correct?
No, this is one and done.
Okay. And so I need to, what am I reading here? Oh, so I have to read the whole thing here? Okay. Okay, so there is a motion in support, and I will now read Resolution 1-2024. Whereas the City Council is made up of representatives from the City of Ishpeming, and whereas the City of Ishpeming's Recreation Commission began the process of developing a community recreation and natural resource conservation plan in accordance with the most recent guidelines developed by the Department of Natural Resources and made available to local communities. And whereas residents of the City of Ishpeming were provided with a well-advertised opportunity during the development of the draft plan to express opinions, ask questions, and discuss all aspects of the recreation and natural resource conservation plan. And whereas the public was given a well-advertised opportunity and reasonable accommodations to review the final draft plan for a period of at least 30 days. And whereas after the 30-day public review and comment period, a public hearing was held on January 10th, 2024 at the Ishpeming City Hall, 100 East Division Street, Ishpeming, by the Ishpeming City Council, to provide an opportunity for all residents of the planning area to express opinions, ask questions, and discuss all aspects of the City of Ishpeming's Parks and Recreation Plan. And whereas after the public hearing, the Ishpeming City Council voted to adopt said City of Ishpeming Parks and Recreation Plan for 2024. Now therefore it be resolved, the Ishpeming City Council hereby adopts the City of Ishpeming Parks and Recreation Plan. And I will now call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Upon a roll call vote, the vote was as follows: 5 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absents. And,
You have to do a roll call vote.
oh, okay, roll call vote, Kathy.
Councilmember Bean?
Yes.
Councilmember Furby?
Yes.
Councilmember Helverson?
Yes.
Councilmember Scanlon?
Yes.
Mayor Chapman?
Yes. And then what it will be saying at the end is, I, the undersigned, being duly qualified and acting city clerk of the City of Ishpeming, do hereby certify the foregoing constitutes a true and complete copy of a resolution adopted by the Ishpeming City Council and the City of Ishpeming, County of Marquette, Michigan, at a regular city council meeting held on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024, and that said meeting was conducted and public notice was given pursuant to and in full compliance with the Open Meetings Act, Act 267, Public Acts of Michigan, and that the minutes of said meeting were kept and will be or have been made available as required by said acts. Okay. Moving on then. Moving on to number 10, 2024 city health insurance coverage.
So we have Ryan, 44 North.
Camera, please, Craig.
Definitely the part of the meeting you all been waiting for, health insurance. There's the big exodus out. No, just kidding. But good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, city staff. What I have in front of you today is this packet of information. I do apologize for it being relatively last minute, but I didn't even know I was coming here until noon today. So this packet is a culmination of a lot of work, not only on our team, but a pre-meeting with city staff, a renewal meeting with city staff. We all came together for a committee meeting of employees to bring recommendations ultimately to you, the council.
Was there a council member present at that? As there is supposed to be?
Council members were invited, were not present for the last meeting.
When
think
was the last meeting?
Monday.
I was not invited. I'm on the committee. Okay.
Okay. So there's a lot of information within this packet. I want to keep this as quick and as summary as possible, but also a lot of detail within this package as well. So hopefully this will help to make decisions and give you an idea of what the culmination of all of those meetings came to. So as you can see, the 2023 health insurance program performance right at the beginning. So this is talking about the current plan year. This plan, if you recall from last year, is a little bit different than maybe your customary plan. This plan takes into account the actual claims of the population of the city of Ishpeming on the plan, not the entire population, but the employees, and also takes in fees and is essentially all calculated up to year over year. A projection is given each and every year, so which bases the premium, which is the top number that you see there. So premiums paid February through December is $396,000 with one more month to go in January. Actual medical, pharmacy, and stop-loss admin expenses that were incurred for this same period of time was $467,000. So if you could see those two numbers, right, the amount of claims and expenses incurred actually went above the amount of premium that was paid by the city. The difference in between those is covered by stop-loss, and that's the stop-loss insurance that the city is paying for on a month-to-month basis. So there's not going to be any asking for the funds from the 396 to the 467 number. That amount is waived. But because claims and expenses are running at that volume, this year's renewal is coming in at an increase for the year. As you can see, the renewal summary right below, the Michigan Public Employer Consortium is coming in with an increase of 11.11%. This breakdown is, this plan is broken down in the pie chart with stop loss increasing at 11.85%. That's the insurance, essentially. Your claim funding, so as you're paying claims month to month to month, the claims are funded by that monthly premium. That estimate is increasing by 15.01%. The admin fee for the administration of this plan is not increasing at all compared to what it is today. And there is a network access fee. This gives your people, the employees, access to physicians, whether that be in Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, or nationwide. But that access fee is increasing by 2.23%. All in all, that is totaling the 11.11%. Your plan has a part of it that funds down a high deductible called a health reimbursement arrangement. That is also based on claims. On an average, your claims are running well this year compared to what projections were. Therefore, there's a decrease in the rates for the HRA of 6.97. All totaled up, this is coming in at an 8.66% increase compared to what rates are today. Any questions on that
And
summary?
Ryan, can you just point out the staffing level? Was there any consideration?
Yep. As you can see below, we have a summary year over year of renewals. Okay, back from 2021, 22, 23, 2023 MPEC compared to what the renewal was with Blue Cross Blue Shield and BCN, and then the 2024 renewal with MPEC. You can see here that the number of folks increased from last year to 26 to 31. So yes, these numbers, when you're looking at them, 432 compared to 570, that's a pretty large increase, and I know it's more than 11%, but that is due to the increase in population that is on your plan as well. So when I'm taking that 11% or the 8.66% increase, I'm comparing 31 folks with your current rates and 31 folks with the new rates that are coming up in 2024. And you can see the overall premium there at 570, 772, which is projected for next year.
And this was the choice of the employees, was to continue with a renewal of this plan?
Correct. Through the pre-meeting, the meeting with city staff, we narrowed down a variety of options. We looked at increasing deductibles on the current plan for employees to $250, $500, $1,000. We also looked at Blue Cross Blue Shield again as an alternate carrier. We also looked at Blue Care Network as an alternate carrier. We looked at Aetna as far as an alternate carrier as well, and that was not a good one at all, so I didn't even put that on the summary. We looked at a different plan design, which is called a health savings account, which you pair up with a high deductible health plan. An account is opened up in city staff's personal names, and the idea would have been to fund that account at 100% of the deductible amount for singles and two people, so that they still have the high benefit plan that they have today. That did come out to be a pretty good cost, I guess, continuance from what the plan is today. But ultimately, because of the Blue Care Network program that was quoted, as well as some reluctance with a new high deductible plan, ultimately, and I don't have direct comment from the committee, but the recommendation is to remain with the Michigan Public Employer Consortium with the current deductible that it is at, with the 44 North HRA at an 8.66% increase.
Okay.
As you flip through the booklet, page 2 is a side-by-side comparison of the current rates along with the benefit plan. You could see the plan that is purchased from MPEC along with what the reimbursed plan levels are for the employees. It's a very good plan as far as that goes, but I do have quite a few other municipal clients that are in this range of benefit as well. So in terms of competitiveness of your benefit plan, it's very good, but you're right there in terms of competitiveness with other municipalities. You can see the rate breakdown as it goes with the medical, the HRA, and then the combined plan there. Page 3 gets into the 3 options that were presented to the committee. Option 1 being remain as is. Option 2 was moving to Blue Care Network which is an HMO product. Again, with the 44 North HRA, you could see the price difference there. And then option 3 was the BCN HSA program with fully funding those HSA accounts for the deductible amounts. Pages that follow are the other options that were reviewed really with the city staff meeting, just to give you an idea of what those plans looked like in their detail in terms of benefits. And then page 7 finally is the dental and vision, which was a very small increase overall, 3.78 on the dental and 0% on the vision side. And the last page is the team at 44 North that works with, including myself.
Okay. I guess I will make a motion to go with option 1, which is the renewal on the insurance.
I'll second.
Is there any other questions, comments from council? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion has passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, does this one require anything extra, like a roll call vote? Okay. Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, proposed wage increase for precinct inspectors. Kathy, you want to take this?
Yep. So what I am requesting for our election workers with the passage of proposal 222 that just went through, there's many changes that are occurring with the elections. Lots of legislation that was approved. So one of which is the early voting. And the early voting is a 9 days of 9 days of in-person voting that we all have to provide. Ishpeming is doing it together with Negaunee City, Negaunee Township, and Ishpeming Township. The clerks finally got together at our latest clerk meeting that happened in December. That was the first time that we actually got together to try to see how we're going to organize the early voting site. In doing that, we talked about wages, and I was not aware that they all had given increases. Well, Ishpeming Township was already making the wage that they're making that I recorded. The other two had given increases. And so I guess I feel that our workers, they're all gonna be working in the same site. I feel our workers several of them have been here for years, and they do a phenomenal job. And they're always here when I need them. They come and do extra. They're just, I don't want to lose them. So my proposal is to increase to the wages with the other 3 municipalities that are in our early voting site. That proposal would be an increase. Our current wages for our election workers are $12 for the election workers and $12.50 for the chairperson. My proposal is to increase it to $15 for election workers and $16 for the precinct chair versus just the 50 cents because they have additional work that they do there. I did some quick numbers on that. And what I did is I looked back at the August 2020 general election and the primary. So those are the bigger elections. So those are more hours, obviously. So roughly the hours were approximately 370 hours. That was for all workers. Usually there's 5 workers to a precinct, sometimes 6. So anyway, the total hours was approximately 370. So at but the difference between the $12 an hour and the $15 an hour for those number of hours, which I'm assuming it'll be close for election day, those would be the hours, there'd be a difference of approximately $1,100.
I will happily make a motion then to
However,
increase
just so you're aware, that does not include the early voting site. So
That's fair.
now we would have an increase irregardless, even at the $12 an hour, because we now have to staff that early voting site. The early voting site is opened for 8 hours for each of the 9 days, but there's opening and closing, so approximately I'd say 10 hours that they're going to be there. So the difference between those, if it was $12 an hour versus 15, is approximately $270. That's for one election. Those numbers are just for the one election. The presidential primary will get reimbursed by the state. So we get reimbursed pretty much for everything for the presidential primary. We do not for the August primary or the November general. That is not reimbursed. It never has been. When I talk to the state, you never know, things can change, but right now I'm just going with that. We're not getting reimbursed for November and August. But like I said, we will for February.
I'm still
So
happy to make that
Well,
motion.
can you let us ask a few questions?
Yeah, I mean, you can, but.
Before we
I mean,
make
I
a
think-
motion.
I think technically we make the motion, we second it, and then there's
Yes.
discussion, so.
Yeah. So I will make the motion then to go with the $16 an hour for the precinct chair and $15 for the election workers.
And I'll second.
We have motion and support. Discussion, Ren?
What is the overall impact on the budget? I mean, we've stated one, I mean, what is the impact on our budget totally, completely with this? And is it in the budget to do this?
We budgeted for the 3 elections.
Right.
So the impact, I mean, I didn't budget for the increase in salary.
All 3?
Well, I didn't, we budgeted what we budgeted for February, but we're getting reimbursed for February.
Okay.
So the difference in budget for what I'm thinking is the difference in the wages, which would be the
Right.
total, I'd say probably 1,500 maybe.
Okay.
For one election, so total 3,000.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, Kathy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bean,
Yes.
Councilmember Furby,
Yes.
Councilmember Halverson,
No.
Councilmember Scanlon,
Yes.
Mayor Chapman.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1.
We are now moving on to number 13, review and confirm policy 601, council rules of procedure policy. Did I miss 12? Adopt new policy 419, applying for boards and commissions. Thank you. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown of what this policy is and potential changes on it?
Yeah, so this is a brand new policy, and the policy is to be compliant with the redevelopment ready communities. It is, we have had stuff posted as to how we allow applying. So we have a policy of applying, but we haven't had a formal written policy as it equates to what the RRC recognizes as a policy. We pulled down their best practice document and followed that format. And at the end of the day, there's literally the add of term of service, reappointment, resignation, and removal. We have those things. We had little statements. We've just lined them better. And other things that are in there are just literally copies and paste from what we had on our website all along. But this document is required by RRC. And so this is just to close out one of those documents.
Okay, we have one council member that stepped out. So I guess I'd maybe want to wait until he gets back to make a motion.
Fine with waiting.
Okay, so is anyone opposed to a very quick recess until he
No, but
steps out?
I might step out also.
Okay. So a quick 3 to 5 minute recess is okay with everybody? Is that what you're hinting at?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I saw him leave and I was like.
Okay, we'll be back then live at 7:47. Alrighty, everybody, we are going to get back here to this, so please bring yourselves down here. Alrighty, we are now resumed at 7:48, and we are now moving on to the adoption of the policy 419, applying for boards and commissions.
Your Honor, I would make a motion that we adopt policy number 419 for policy for applying for boards and commissions.
Support.
Okay, with motion and support, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, policy 419 is adopted. Now we are moving on to number 13, review and confirm policy 601, council rules and procedure policy. Just one note, I did provide everybody with a little packet that has just some example agendas from the city of Marquette, the city of Negaunee, and the MML recommended as well. And I think that, in my personal opinion, my biggest thing is our agendas. And I do believe that we should still keep our initial public comment of 5 minutes and our second public comment of 3 minutes, and add new and unfinished business as well as agenda comment. I don't like the idea of limiting what the public can or cannot say. I think it would be probably better for us to remain open to hearing what the public does have to say without limiting what they can. That is my thought process on it. I just don't.
Your
like
Honor,
that.
I don't disagree with you. My problem with the second public comment is it should not be an extension of your first public comment. So if a person has his 5 minutes, the topic should not be carried on for 3 more minutes. Separate copy or separate content would be fine to me.
I would be
But
fine
not
with that
to-
as
Not to
well.
add the 3 minutes to the rant that came from the 5 minutes.
But
Because
would-
it so often ends up, it's not
But
information being conveyed, it's just.
I'm open to it in theory, but would that then restrict someone's First Amendment right, which is the freedom of speech?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
even more immediately, state law has the Open Meetings Act, which allows people to address the council on matters of importance to the city, and requires at least one time during the meeting when that should happen. And the council cannot limit the subjects during that time. But if you add additional public comments, like right now you've got 2, you could specify that it would be agenda items at the beginning or something like that, as long as there's one public comment where the subjects are not limited.
Which I think is, to her point, I think is the proposal that's on here, proposed agenda. 2 public comments first. Public comment would be for agenda comments, essentially with a time limit of 3 minutes. And the second public comment would be for general comments and also have a 3-minute time limit. So that would, within the bounds of not violating free speech, would then achieve what Mr. Scanlon had suggested.
I firmly believe, though, that their public comment of 3 minutes is too short. Often people do take up 4 and 5 minutes in their public comments, and I think 3 minutes, to me, is a questionable change. I mean, I feel like I almost feel like it would feel like we are not being open to hearing what they fully have to say, or we would be then limiting their time even more. Just because, the agenda comment is if they want to speak to something on the agenda, But limiting that public comment to 3 minutes also, I think would be a
I agree with that. I think
disagreement.
5 minutes is not an extended amount of time. I don't think it needs to be cut down to 3. I don't think that takes up that big of a meeting. If people have something to say, then 5 minutes.
And,
for
right,
most of what some of our people have to say, 5 minutes is very limited as it is, so. I think
Yeah,
5
and-
minutes is reasonable.
right, and I think just, I also like the idea of us having the 2 public comment periods and then an agenda comment, because it gives them a little bit of an extra extension, and it feels like it's more open to the public, rather than us limiting what they have.
Can I interject?
You may.
When I did some research on it, I looked at, I think there was 12 or 13 different municipalities, some local, some in the UP, some downstate. MML looked at their handbook and some guidance. Out of all those that I looked into, there was usually 2 public comments. Some had the public comment, agenda comment for the first, with the general public comment second. Some had just 2 general public comments. Some had just 1. There was a few that just had 1, either at the end or at the beginning. But out of the ones that I reviewed, I never seen public comment, 2 public comments and an agenda comment. I just didn't see that on the ones that I reviewed. They, like I said, there was usually 2 public comments is what I'd seen. Some had agenda first and then general, but that's what I found when I did some research on that.
Would a fitting compromise be that they still have their 5-minute comment at the top, but they can reserve time, or they can speak to public comment on that time, or they can reserve time or speak to the agenda, and that's their choice. And then they still would have their public comment at the end.
Yeah, like you mean they get up for public comment and then say, I'd like to reserve time for item
Yeah.
6.
Yep. That's a good compromise with you two. Is that okay with you two?
Reasonable.
Okay.
Is that a motion? If so, I
Well,
would ask what the time limit is on that when they do talk.
my suggestion would be to keep it at 5 minutes and 3 minutes. And then I would also just like us to see on the special meetings, move the comment before the meeting rather than after it, because again, they can be speaking to what's on the agenda or they can be speaking to public comment. Or,
That, to me, it's like 2 separate issues.
Okay.
It's not, but I would move that we leave the 5-minute on the front end, that the citizen can decide. I'd like to reserve time on an agenda item, or I'd like to speak public. And on the second 3 minutes, just general public comment.
I would support that.
That clear, Kath?
Okay?
So 5 and 3.
5 and 3, yep.
First will be general as well, just that would be the time that they reserve.
Maybe
Yes.
it's general, or if they want to reserve, they can do public comment, but save some number of minutes for agenda, but they'd have to declare it at the podium.
That's a good idea. Way to word it, yes. Now, I guess for further discussion here, would we also then be taking like unfinished business and new business? That's what I was gonna wanna know, if we're gonna do just things.
I think we should act separately.
Okay, all right.
Just for simplification.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the first one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are keeping those the same, and we will be able to explain that then at the next meeting to folks, so, okay. I've seen also that you can have new and unfinished business as the same thing, or we can have 2 separate things on there. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Caroline.
I don't think it matters. You don't need it at all. You've gotten through a number of meetings, you don't have it, and it's just fine, as long as you list your agenda items so that when people are making their public comment on agenda items, they at least know what's gonna be on the agenda. So you list off your agenda, and whether you call it unfinished or new or whatever.
Well, I do think we should have the option for new and unfinished business rather than bringing something up in like a report to discuss, but.
Right, and for clarification, if we were to add these back in, they would need to have those items approved with the approval of the agenda at the beginning of the minute.
Yes.
At the beginning of the meeting.
Mhm. Yeah, and I guess to save room, we could do just new/unfinished business. I mean, that would be my suggestion, but it's up to you guys how you want to word that.
I guess it doesn't matter. Maybe they should be separate.
Separate?
I like
Okay.
them separate.
All right. And so was that a motion? We have a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we add new 2 items, 2 lines to the agenda, with one being new business and one being unfinished business to be added and approved upon agenda approval at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Do we have any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that has passed. Now, as we're going through and looking at the rest, unless there's anything on the agendas that anyone wants brought up. Okay, so as we're going through the council rules and procedures, is there anything in this that has changed since the last time we reviewed these? 'Cause,
I believe this is a copy of the ones from July that you approved.
okay. Oh,
So,
yeah.
so in order to implement the motions that you just passed, some changes would be made. So there's a draft agenda in here that would be altered, et cetera. So those will come back to you.
Oh, and I forgot about agendas. We were just gonna discuss a special. I would like to make a motion on our special meetings that we move public comment before the agenda items and provide one option of either public comment or agenda comment with a time of 5 minutes total for the whole meeting.
What is it now, 5 or 3?
Specials 3.
I guess I'm not in favor of changing it to 5, but I certainly support moving it to the beginning,
Okay.
being that it's usually for a specific meeting,
Or
specific item.
is there a happy medium of a 4-minute? 4-minute compromise?
Yeah, I'll support it.
Okay. All righty, so I'll change my motion then to a 4-minute either or at the top of the meeting. And a support from Councilmember Scanlon. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, these special meeting agendas have been updated. Now, moving on, is there anything else anybody else has seen in here that they may want to look at?
Well, the rules have been adopted, we do not have to act on that.
Right, and that's just what I'm just letting everybody have a minute to look and think, and
I have nothing else.
what's that?
I think that's what the mayor was just saying, is those motions are considered motions to amend the existing policy.
Okay, and I think it also would be a good thing for all of us to refresh ourselves on this and do our best to adhere it. Because sometimes things get out of hand, I guess, and I'm not blaming anyone. I will happily admit that I also need to do a better job. Has everybody had a chance to look this over?
I'm fine.
Is? Okay, can I get a motion then to, Kathy, what did you say you wanted a motion on? I'm sorry.
We don't need any.
Oh, you don't
we
need
shouldn't
one.
You've taken the vote, you've
We've taken our
authorized
votes.
based on that, we've got no other changes, then you're good to go.
Okay, all right. Well, then I guess we are done with that for now. Moving on to number 14, Planning Commission recommendations, and we are on to the first reading of zoning ordinance text amendment, increased diversity in multiple residential district, RRC requirements.
So our zoning is only being modified per direction of the RRC to incorporate clearer definitions of at least two more categories for housing. And so as an example, townhouses, we would allow townhouses under a conditional use under the previous version, and it was able to be brought to Planning Commission, recommended, and approved. However, the RRC didn't like the openness. I guess it was, I don't know, I call it too inclusive because it just was wildly open.
Okay.
They want to define it and have at least two more from what we had defined. And so this is in alignment based on recommendations from our LSC partnership, working with the MEDC folks, aligning to RRC, processing through the Planning Commission, and then the Planning Commission making the recommendation to adopt. But it is probably the largest stumbling block that we had left to overcome in order to achieve RRC certification. So we have
Well done.
like one or two more documents that we need to push through, but they won't need to come to council for a resolution. This is the night
our
of all
first
nights.
reading, yeah.
This is the night of all nights, I guess is the way to say it. But anything that's on the docket for RRC needed to be here today so we can get through.
So I do have a question on this motion because it is a first reading, so it does have to go to a second unless it's an emergency pass, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you can choose emergency or non-emergency. Our timeline is that the state has now opened up what they're calling March on Main Street, which is only open to certified communities. And so
I'm aware,
if we can get this through today or have a special not too far down the way to move this up, we would be able to still be able to apply for March on Main because we would likely get the certification handled. So I would say if you choose it as emergency, it would be because you want to get into the March on Main announcements and get into that certification. If you choose not, I would recommend that we select a special way which we can
And
bring
that's
this up
why I
so
brought
we get
that
it up.
question
So
up, yeah.
those are the two options. Either one works for us as far as timeline because we still have a couple more documents to do. But we need to get them hopefully done before January. So
Your Honor, I'll move that we adopt it as an emergency resolution. Is it a resolution or
It is a zoning ordinance.
zoning ordinance,
Text amendment.
as it is presented this evening?
I will support.
and just to state one more time,
Yeah,
because
go
it's a
ahead.
text amendment, it isn't changing what we did in our ordinance other than to define two categories. What we allowed before is still allowed. We just defined two categories of
Right,
housing.
right, this is a
Administrative
change without,
text.
right, without
It's an
much
administrative
change at all.
text change.
Right. Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the Ordinance text amendment has passed as an emergency ordinance change. Okay, now we are moving on to number 15, declare DPW vehicles surplus. A 1998 Chevy S10 two-wheel drive. B 2010 Chevrolet Tahoe four-wheel drive. And C a 2002 Chevrolet 1500 four-wheel drive.
So I'll let Bill go on to what those vehicles are in a moment. I just want to bring to your attention an additional document that came up. So while we were preparing the agenda, our Marquette County Solid Waste Authority was doing a blanket email out to local units of government within the authority, asking if there were any vehicles that were coming available or could be sold to them. And it was just random circumstance of timing. I acknowledge that we were planning to put 3 on the docket for declaring surplus. They showed interest, visited, and have issued a letter requesting that if you do declare surplus, that as part of that, you generally set a price for what it would be for bids, but also that you would consider them being able to pay that minimum price for the 2 vehicles. And what that does for us is it saves us some administrative processing, but it also supports our residents who are paying tipping fees and everything to our landfill, and they're getting use out of something that we're selling them at the minimum bid.
I would.
Bill, you got anything on the vehicles?
No, it's just, all 3 of them have reached their useful life for us, and we did put a price tag of $500 on the 1500 truck, $500 on the Suburban, and $1,000 on the S10. And Marquette County Solid Waste would like to put an offer in on the 2 pickup trucks.
So $1K for the S10, and you said 500.
Yeah, so go through those numbers again by your pages.
It's 500 for the 1500, the red truck, 500 for the Suburban, and then 1,000 for the S10.
Which 2 vehicles are they wanting?
They want the trucks, the 500 and 1,000.
So for a total of $1,500, they would buy those. Well, my thoughts on it is if they're really interested in using used trucks from the city, may stave off some increased tipping fees for our residents. I don't see why that would be a bad issue.
They're staying in the community, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the vehicles, I don't feel safe letting anybody drive them on roads, so they fit the bill. They'll never leave the landfill again.
I don't have a problem supporting your honor, but I would ask for more than a picture the next time we declare something surplus. We should have mileage, any major problems, something that justifies why we're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
In the future, not to hold up this evening.
No, that's fair. So I guess, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we declare the 3 vehicles surplus. Do we need to specify?
I was just gonna say, does there need to be a caveat here that we're gonna sell those 2?
Do we need to specify that it?
Is it all 3? Is
Okay.
it 2? Is that?
Well, we're gonna
Well,
declare.
okay, so,
I would
yes,
just,
all
I would
3,
just list
all
the.
3 vehicles as surplus, yes.
Okay,
Great.
is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Vehicles are surplus. Now, can we entertain a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the sale of the surplus vehicles to the Marquette County. The 1998 Chevy S10 and the 2002 Chevy 1500 to the Marquette County Solid Waste Authority.
For a total of,
For a total of $1,500.
thank you.
Support with the question is, should we be setting the minimum bids as part of one of the motions? We discussed, so now we still have one that's gonna be hanging out there, and we didn't deal with the recommendation for the minimum bid.
Yes.
So I wonder if we should incorporate in the motion that all 3 are, this is the minimum bid required. So it's a matter of record and we won't take less than that.
Well, we can go on with these 2 with the motion, and then we can set the next, the Chevy Tahoe next. Okay.
I mean, do we typically, I mean, I don't know that we have
You have,
specified.
yeah, you have in the
Have we?
past
Okay.
specified what the minimum bid is, and then we've, looked at whether or not we could use it as a trade. So sometimes you've allowed us to trade it with a vehicle purchase. So you have done that. And to Mr. Councilmember Scanlon's point, I think, as the mayor pointed out, I think since you've already identified the pricing for the solid waste authority, you could just make the final motion on the remaining vehicle to be applied as the minimum bid.
So I would amend my motion to include that the minimum bid for the 2010 Chevy Tahoe would be $500.
Let's do all three.
Do all three then?
So the other two were 1,000 and 500, which I think I already specified in.
You made a motion.
Yeah.
To sell, give it up, sell to the market consolidated measurement authorities.
Okay, with that being, I guess we'll split them out then.
Sure.
So with
that's
the
fine.
1998 Chevy S10, minimum bid for 1,000, and the 2022 Chevy 1500 for a minimum bid of 500, and then adding the 2010 Chevy Tahoe for a minimum bid of 500.
That's okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I guess I do have a question. What may be wrong with the Chevy Tahoe? Do you happen to know anything that's wrong with that one?
Bad head gaskets.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion has passed. Moving on to public comment, and this is a limit of 3 minutes per person. Is there anybody that, oh, we have some hands up. Okay, I saw Claudia go first, so go ahead. And then, Ray, you beat your wife, so you'll go in. But I'm still choosing her next, so, okay, go ahead.
Claudia Demarest, 821 Maurice. I'm on the Parks and Rec Board. And in August and October, we did have quorums for those two. So I don't know why the Parks and Rec plan wasn't brought to us. And why isn't the financial report included in the online agenda packet for the public to see? And when is the public going to see the tentative results for the former utility billing clerk's mistakes? I think the public has a right to know. Thanks.
Okay. Next, I'll go with Ann. I like your Ray, but no. Okay.
Thanks. Ann Olds, 1165 9th Street. As my husband mentioned, we don't often get down here to attend a council meeting at night. I'm old, I don't like to go out at night. And we do watch online, but I feel like we miss a lot by not being here in person. And so one thing that has really helped us to understand what's going on with the city is Mayor Chapman holds coffee with the mayor once a month. Actually, no, twice a month. I think you're doing it. And it has just really, really been a help for us to understand what's going on in the city. We get updates on projects. We can bring our concerns to him, and I know he brings them to you. And I really commend you for doing that for all of us, Mayor Chapman. And I'd like to encourage all of you council members, if you have the opportunity, come to those coffees, because it really is a very good experience for all of us who go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead now, Ray. Yeah.
Raymond Olds, 1165 9th Street. I'm really confused on public comments right now. I don't know when I'm allowed to speak or what, but something that was brought up tonight reminded me of something. And when we were talking about the precincts and the elections, I started thinking about the precinct at the Birchview School. Now, any time of any day when there's kids in that school, if you want to get in, you go push a button and they look from the office to see who's coming in. You tell them why, and they'll buzz you in. But during an election, anybody can walk in that gymnasium. And maybe we should look for a different precinct for that. Or maybe I see we have a couple of police officers here tonight. Maybe it'd be a good idea to have a couple of police officers in that gym during the election to protect our children who are at that Birchview School. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good thought. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to, yes, Mayor Kangas?
I'm Dave Kangas, I'm from Negaunee, and I'm not here representing Negaunee. I'm not here representing council. I'm just a Finlander living on Clark Street. I just want to say that to all you on the board up here, you're the leaders of Ishpeming. And with leadership comes, obviously, you gotta make decisions. And I know there's people sitting in the audience here who've been in those seats up there. You got hard decisions to make sometimes. But as long as you make decisions in your best interest, best in your heart, and what's in the best interest of the city, following within charter and rules and such, I think that's the main thing. Even though not everyone may agree, but we're all together, and I think that's a big deal.
Disregard that.
I just wanted to say that. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment? Anybody on Zoom world? And then I will do a last call.
Doesn't look like it. Still 0.
Okay, last call in the room for public comment. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Hearing none. Closing public comment. Moving on to mayor and council reports, and I will start on the left this time. Lindsay.
I don't have much to report on, I suppose. Had a lot of holidays and such. We did have a planning commission meeting on Monday. We removed the one of those recommendations, and we approved the other. A couple of other things that we talked about, and I brought up specifically as moving up in maybe not moving up, but maintaining some priority to are an ordinance, the ordinance for short-term rentals. We have been working on that. I think it's been fairly slow, and I indicated that I think it's been slow, yeah, I hope that we can work toward having something finalized there this year. And the other thing that has kind of dropped off of our radar that we did talk about earlier in the year that I'd like to see resumed back on there is we had discussed some additional cannabis licenses that could be allowable within the city. We did have a meeting where we discussed that fairly at length. Those would need to be added as changes to our existing cannabis ordinance. We had sometime last year, the exact date's going to escape me, but Bryce Sturmer from Mello came and talked about what licenses, what the other licenses were, and I think there were maybe 3 of them that seemed like they could be a pretty good fit and would fill a niche in the Upper Peninsula that is not currently being filled by licenses. And then since he came, I also had an opportunity to hear both of the owners of the fire station speak about their cannabis business and how it has grown. And they spoke to some of the challenges that they have faced in the industry where there are a lack of those types of licenses available in the Upper Peninsula. Again, then creating a good opportunity, good economic opportunity for the city of Ishpeming should we choose to include some of those. So just trying to put those back on kind of our short list for the Planning Commission. I know that Al's time is pretty limited and he expressed concern over being able to address those things, but I do want to make sure that they stay high on our radar. Also, Danny Hill from Ramba attended and provided a short public comment in which he said that in working with IMBA, which is the International Mountain Bike Association, that they have estimated the Ramba trail system to add $1.8 million in value to the city. He did not elaborate on how that is calculated. Is that per year? Is that, I'm not quite sure. I would venture to guess that that's per year, but I could be wrong. So anyway, I thought that that was nice because it was having a true number to it. And in the joint planning commission and DDA meeting that we had in November, we did sort of spitball some ideas of how we thought that the trails collectively, not just Ramba, did contribute to economic development within the city. So it was nice to have some numbers to that. And that concludes my report.
Okay, Renell.
They had some very late meetings in the housing, but their main agenda was they had approved some increases in the base rates and everything, went through, discussed that with all of the residents to decide, you know, how that was gonna work out for them. So everyone was notified of the new rental and everything. And then the other thing was they had been wanting to get back onto the city insurance, and through reasons they could not, they went and decided to go with their own insurance policy with an 80-20 and everything rate. So they are now insured, and they approved that. But other than that, they are still discussing where their improvements for windows and everything and how they're gonna budget that out. But it was a very brief meeting. I mean, we're talking right at Christmas time. So most of it was just approving their budget in general. Very basic. And the bus issue did not get brought up because I had asked about that, and they said it was just a matter of them contacting the Marquette busing and reestablishing the free senior day for them to be picked up. So I ended up, there was really nothing to add to that and everything. I don't know if there was a mix-up in what day the bus would come there and pick them up or whatever, but that, nothing has changed. That's continued. As long as they contact the bus company, they'll come and pick them up at the front door and take them where they need to be. Free day.
Okay. Yes.
Well, first I have a question. I haven't been by there in the last couple weeks, so forgive me if it's already happening. And I know obviously the weather is a major part of this. Are we planning on an ice rink again this year? As weather allows, okay.
So one of the challenges with the ice rink is you just don't spray water on the ground. You can put a liner down and try to hold water, and we've tried that and it doesn't work as well. It still kind of creeps out. So what we've done in the past couple of years, it's worked well, is we have a nice base of snow, and then we lightly spray it, get it to harden, then we spray it and spray it and spray it. Like we harden, spray. Without the base, we're getting close to where we should be able to start getting a base down for that. But it's not been one of those conditions so
It
far.
started, it's cleared. The birds are ready.
What about the tube slide? Sorry, dude.
Same.
Tube slide is similar, but a little bit more quantity needed. So those snowfalls need to have some total for getting a heavy groomer on it and packing it down, but also to berm snow so kids don't slide off into an active roadway. It's not a very active roadway, but the roadway coming down to the lodge. And also to stop them from going out onto the lake, which this year has been sketchy ice already. And so those protective measures are not in place, but we do have currently the sufficient number of applicants necessary to hire.
Yep.
But when we go to make an offer, hopefully they're still available. They may not be by the time we get to that point. So that's another challenge that may or may not happen. But we are prepared should we get Hinky Lunta to help us out.
Go ahead, Des, sorry.
That's okay. The only other thing I was gonna mention, it's been brought up a couple times about the coffee hour that you hold. Unfortunately, I work, so I am not ever able to attend the coffee hours, and I know that you had an evening one. The evening one was on the night that I had a meeting for work.
I can work with you on
I
that.
couldn't go, so. just
I'll
thought
work
I'd
with you on that.
Say that publicly, that I'm not ditching on purpose.
No, and I know you expressed interest, and we can work on one for February if you want, and go from there. But thank you, yeah. Okay. Pat.
Yeah, just, I talked to the Olses, and we got the city manager and Harry Meyer working on refinishing our tennis courts. We had a little discussion, and it sounds like it would be more prudent. It would be hard to just give them the property, but it sounds like it would be more prudent for the city to look for a grant. So Craig and Carrie are working on that. I don't really have anything to report yet. It's been pretty quick.
So Carrie's been doing some research into what was done in the past, and there's some ways leases and maintenance and agreements have to be done for the state to accept it as a municipal input into the Parks and Rec application process, but we're working on it. Obviously, we don't have anything in the system, and it's not due until April 1st, but Carrie's already gotten all of her files. She's ready to go. I gotta get her access onto the system with me, and then we can generate that up.
Hopefully we'll
So-
hear something soon. On the financial report, one of our institutions is Comerica. What, can you explain? There isn't a Comerica in the UP, is there?
No.
No, that's part of our police, fire, and retirement.
Oh, okay.
So we have Charles Schwab handles the bulk of the investment, and Comerica is almost kind of like our clearing bank.
Gotcha.
Keep all of the big money separate, and Comerica is kind of that wall.
Very good. And last, I'd like to have a closeout on the brassware. We didn't have much of a usage period, but as the year ended, we should be able to give a financial report as to what we paid, what it cost, and what we're looking at in the spring. Not necessarily at the next council meeting, but certainly I'd like to see that soon.
I will agree with Pat. Very good
That
idea.
concludes my report.
Okay, I'll start mine off with, yesterday was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and I'd like to really thank Chief Radava and our members of law enforcement, especially here in the city of Ishpeming. All of you have made this community safer. I am very proud of this department, and I think we have a very innovative police chief. And he's been able to go out and get us some very very qualified people to join the department. Candidates, and thought outside the box and has made it happen. And so from me to you, thank you to the ones in attendance tonight, and thank you to the others who are not here tonight. That does deserve a round of applause. So I hope everybody has a great new year, and the next coffee hour, and I appreciate the kind words. The next one is on January 26th at 1 o'clock. There will be no evening one this month, but there will be next month at a venue or time and date to be determined. And I'll work with Diz if she wants to attend, and if any other council member wants to, yeah, let me know. Due to the potential of Open Meetings Act violations, so only two of us can be present. And
I would like to attend.
happy to have you. Yeah, you've attended before, so yeah. And then I have one other thing. They're still working on the regular ABC 10 segment for the month, but I have been now working with an outside organization, and I think we're going to have something very, very soon on that one, and that is all about showcasing Ishpeming and the great people and organizations that are part of our community. So that's all I got for me. Moving on to I don't know if that's how it always is, manager/attorney. Do you have anything before?
Nothing.
Okay, Craig, go ahead.
So a few updates. So we applied for the Mishta Housing Grant, which it was called a Neighborhood Enhancement Program, which is where we were trying to get the Wabash plague dot into that program, and we were not successful in that grant. However, we were also working with Habitat for Humanity in the local community, they've adopted Ishpeming as their area for their grant, and they were successful. And I think they're doing, I have to confirm, but I think they're doing something with the play lot that's right down here on Superior Street or thereabouts. And so it's a housing program with potential for a community amenity. And so they were focusing on some of their housing initiatives for the lower areas where they've been already working. And then we're still waiting on the MISHDA's and the, I guess it's the Leo's grant, the community grant. They were supposed to have it done and reported by October. Then they moved it to November, then they moved it to December, and they have not given an update to say it's going to be in January, but we already missed December, so we're hoping that it's going to be this month. And that one, we would be looking at a $1.4 million grant, so it's a big one for us. To answer one of the public comments, we have a winter parking ban, not a winter plowing ban. So the winter parking ban is the same across Marquette County for all of the local communities, and it's from November 1st to April 15th or 30th, to April 30th. So November 1st to April 30th is the winter parking ban, not a plowing ban. So it's not tied to weather events specifically, but it's open for the time periods where we generally have weather events. So just trying to clarify that. And then some updates. The fire department has been awarded an additional grant, which they're going to apply to their 10-year life cycle plan for their turnout gear. It has a 50% match, but their budget already included the 100% requirement, so they're saving us $6,200 by having that 50% match. So that's good for the fire department. They have executed the purchase of their radios, so their 24 800 megahertz radios under the FEMA grant that they were awarded has been done. That was a nearly $15,000 grant with a 5% match. Just looking for a couple of the updates that I had in here. The Lake Angeline boat launch, we're working with the DNR on that. The alleyway and the boat launch itself, we've worked out a deal where we'll be able to, while we're doing the plowing of that alleyway already, we'll just go in and push some snow through the parking lot so that trailers can get in there. So if somebody wants to go out fishing, ice fishing, they can get a vehicle and or a trailer and a snow machine or some sort of recreational vehicle out that way. So there's some documents that Caroline and I are working on that with the state DNR, but they'll be doing a publication to announce that now open with winter parking, which would be a first. We have submitted the application for the distressed communities application, which we'd hope that would fund one of our fire truck options. Not sure when that one will be announced yet. We have our Ishpeming Ski Club has applied or is applying for an MDARD grant, so we've issued a letter of support to help them. They're hoping to do some improvements to their lodge and grow their second floor so they can grow their capacity there.
I piggybacked and sent one in my individual capacity. And they've had a really good collab on that one this year to help make sure their target's right.
The DDA facade grants have closed out. You should be able to notice that the Jackson Hardware, that first of all, I want to just say that their awning, as bad as it looked, was not going to fail. It has some steel in there, but it does look much nicer now that it's been done, as well as JT Olson's shop down the street. Looks wonderful compared to where it was. And that's it.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.